What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo. It's Howie season. It is officially Howie season. And if we had any doubts that this is when Howie cooks, then you just don't know Howie. And I said it yesterday on this show, if you were here yesterday, talking about all these people who were worried about the amount of money that they paid Saquon Barkley. And I said, the one thing not to worry about with Howie Roseman is the money. You can question Howie Roseman when it comes to drafting, when it comes to player personnel as far as talent evaluation. But the one thing you cannot question Howie Roseman on is the money. And now, the contract details of Saquon Barkley's contract have been released. And like I told you yesterday, all of you who were worried about it, don't doubt him. Don't doubt Howie Roseman when it comes to contracts. Making a fool of yourself doubting Howie Roseman when it comes to contracts. So we'll talk about the Saquon Barkley deal in a second. But other big news breaks last night. As expected, a reunion between the Philadelphia Eagles and Chauncey Gardner Johnson. Something we've been hearing for a while. I like this move, but I don't want them to be finished. If you follow me or this show, you know I was in support of them bringing back CJGJ. But I said it the moment it was reported that there were talks that they were going to reunite. I need more than just CJGJ at safety. I need something else. They can't be done. Now, what I like about Chauncey Gardner Johnson is his versatility. We saw it when he was here in 2022. Not only does he have the ability to play the safety position, he can come down and play that nickel corner position. And it doesn't look like Avonte Maddox is going to be back. So that's a good move for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I want to talk about what else I need at that position. And we still have one glaring hole on that defensive side of the football, which we'll talk about. We're going to be joined later on in the show, like we are every Wednesday, by Kayla Santiago. So Kayla will be joining the show. We usually do a lot of Sixers talk with Kayla. I'm done with the damn Sixers. So we'll do a lot of Eagles talk with Kayla today. May just ask her very quickly what the hell's going on with our 76ers. But we're going to get it into it all. Big win for the Fly Guys last night. Big win. Every point they pick up from here on out is one step closer to playoff hockey in South Philly. You know I can't wait for that. But let's get a little roll call in the chat. We are streaming live across the JAKIB Sports Network. We are live on the Bill Colarulo Philly Sports Talk networks. We're live on X, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. We're everywhere, baby. So let's get a little roll call. Big Bill's checking in the chat. Wine Niners Wine, my man. Appreciate you checking out 97.5 yesterday. I'll be back on the Fanatic tonight, 6 to 10. We're doing an Eagles special tonight, 6 to 10 on the Fanatic if you want to check that out. David Laprati, 11-17, Chuck Hutton, Flexen and Steppin. I'm glad Flexen's in the house because you were all upset yesterday, Flexen, about the contract they gave Saquon Barkley. So we're going to look at the details now. And I told you yesterday, Flexen, you know you're my man, but I told you to stop questioning Howie Roseman. Fran Iardi in the house. Ryan, Kyle Kokorski, Daz, Kings fan, Andrew Deck, Niners all damn day checking in. We got a Niners fan, a Niners troll in the chat. Drew Nichols, a lot of people checking in. MC, if I missed you, I apologize, but I appreciate you being here. A lot of action going on in the chat right now. I see a lot of people checking in on TikTok as well. So let's jump in because Kayla's going to be joining the show in about 10 minutes. So I want to talk about some things here. So we'll get to Chauncey Gardner Johnson in a second. Big move for the Philadelphia Eagles. But we did get the details on the Saquon Barkley contract. So everybody sees the numbers, and this is what I always say. This is what I always preach. It's not about the total number. It's never about the total number. It's about what the cap hits are. We talk about this with Jalen Hurts' contract all the time. $255 million. Everybody loses their mind. Oh, they can't do anything because of Hurts' contract. And I keep telling you, look at the cap hits. Because Jalen Hurts only $13.5 million this year. $22 million next year. $32 million the year after that. So that contract was structured in a way that it doesn't handcuff you. And this deal they gave Saquon Barkley looks a lot better now that we know the details. So although it's a 3-year, $37.75 million deal, in essence, it's a 2-year, $26 million deal with a team option for that third year. Because the Eagles can get out from under this contract after 2 years if it turns out that Saquon Barkley's not the answer, if he can't stay healthy, which a lot of people are concerned about. But his cap hit for 2024 is only $3.9 million. Typical Howie Roseman contract, they backload it. They backload the contract so that the cap hits are in the end of the deal. So you look at it, $3.9 million in 24, $13.5 million cap hit in 25. And then in 2026, if the Eagles decide to keep him, because they can get out from this contract after 2 years, it would be a $15.5 million cap hit. But if they were to cut Saquon, let's say they moved on from him after 2 years, which I don't see happening, but let's say they moved on from him after 2 years, they could actually do a post-June 1st designation if they cut him, and their dead cap would only be $8.6 million. And you could spread that out over 2 years. So it would be 3.8 in 26, 4.6 in 27. This is a great deal. That's why I told you, don't worry about Howie. If you like the player and you like that player's on the Philadelphia Eagles, stop worrying about the money. Me and all of you don't know a fraction about the cap the way Howie Roseman knows the cap. And I've said it before. We can question Howie Roseman when it comes to talent evaluation, especially in the draft. He's missed a lot in the draft. But if you like the player, on this team, don't worry about how much they paid him. Because Howie knows what he's doing. That's the one thing we all can agree on. He knows what he's doing when it comes to money. So listen to this. I just tweeted this out. You may have seen it because it's blowing up for some reason. It's blowing up. I know, not for some reason, because it's so crazy. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley, all 4 of those stars on the Philadelphia Eagles offense, carry a cap hit in 2024 of $36.2 million. Dak Prescott, by himself, has a cap hit of $59.4 million. Daniel Jones, by himself, has a cap hit of $47 million. The Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman have Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley for $36 million cap number. Here we go. Xander's putting it up. This is the tweet. And Dak Prescott, 59.4, Daniel Jones, $47 million. This is Howie season, man. Howie Roseman is a cheat code for the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL. Unbelievable, man. And I could probably, I don't have the numbers in front of me, we could probably even add Dallas Goedert into the mix there. Kenny Gainwell, who's the backup running back. They still wouldn't get to Dak Prescott and Daniel Jones' number. So pretty incredible stuff from Howie. And more good stuff. Bringing in Chauncey Gardner Johnson, 3 years, $33 million. And I knew we were going to get this in the chat. Slagger 57. That's just this year. I've told you. Look at Jalen Hurts' cap hits, man. Everybody keeps thinking, oh, well, next year the caps jump. Jalen Hurts' cap hit won't reach where Dak Prescott is ever. It doesn't go up to $54 million until 2028. He won't reach Daniel Jones' number until 2028. And the cap keeps going up, 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 up. So it doesn't matter. That's what you got to look at. Joe Banner, we all remember Joe Banner. Joe Banner tweeted out yesterday in response to the Saquon Barkley signing that with the cap where it is, $12 million for any starter is a steal right now. Because the cap went up $30 million. It's probably going to go up another $30 million next year. So the Eagles are in a great spot financially. But they can't be done. They can't be finished in how they build this team. I like the move so far. Edge rusher Bryce Huff. They brought in linebacker Zach Bond. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. 27 years old. Doesn't play a lot. Probably a special teamer. A rotational piece on that defense. But now they add Chauncey Gardner Johnson. And Chauncey Gardner Johnson, what I like about this move is, yes, he's got that swagger to him. He's got that dog mentality that we've talked about before. You need that on the defensive side of the football. Look at what happened with the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel talking all that trash all year. He comes into Lincoln Financial Field. Not a single person on that defense did a damn thing last year. When the 49ers played the Lions, at least Chauncey Gardner Johnson tried to do something. At least he gave him a little bump after the whistle one time. So that's what CJGJ brings to this defense, but he also brings that versatility. He can not only play safety, you can move him down to the line of scrimmage. He can play the nickel. So I'm excited to see what Vic Fangio is going to do with a guy like Chauncey Gardner Johnson. So now you did two things that were good. You brought in an edge rusher in Bryce Huff. I know some people are worried because he's not a run stopper, but this guy is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. That is a skill not to overlook. Those out there who just want to be negative, sure, let's look at, oh, he can't stop the run. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. You don't find that everywhere. Only two players in the league last year had a better win rate than Bryce Huff when it came to pass rush, and their names were Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. So that was a great move. He's still only 25 years old. So I like those two moves, bringing in Chauncey, bringing in Bryce Huff. But if you follow this show, if you follow me, you know going into free agency, I said I needed Chauncey Gardner Johnson and somebody else. So I don't want them to be done at the safety position because right now your starting safeties are Reed Blankenship and Chauncey Gardner Johnson. I can't trust Reed Blankenship yet. We need some more depth back there anyway. So I want to see them go out and get somebody else. Cameron Curl is still a name that's out there, only 24 years old, played for the Washington Commanders last year. I know a lot of people are throwing out the name Justin Simmons because of his relationship with Vic Fangio. I'm not going to be angry at that move, but at the same time, I'm kind of done with the 30-year-old safeties. Justin Simmons is 30 years old. I'd rather see them go young. I'd rather see them go and get a Cameron Curl from Washington who's 24. And now you sign him to a 3 or 4 year deal. We got Chauncey Gardner Johnson and Cameron Curl for the next 3 years. Our safety position's fine. And you still have Reed Blankenship, and you have Sidney Brown, hopefully coming back from his ACL at some point next year. Now I feel a lot better about that safety position. You know, I'm not as worried about the cornerbacks because I think Isaiah Rodgers was, in essence, our free agent signing at corner this year. They signed him last year, but he was suspended all year. Wait until you see what Isaiah Rodgers does on the outside. So I like that move a lot last year. So that's essentially your free agent signing at corner. So now you have Keely Ringo, who I'm expecting big things in year 2. Isaiah Rodgers. You still have Darius Slay. Eli Ricks battles. You got Zach McPherson, who's another name coming back. Blew out his Achilles in training camp last year. The Eagles were high on him last year. So I like the secondary the way it's shaping up. I just need one more piece. Give me one more, Howie. Give me another safety. And then I'm feeling good about the secondary. But we still need that linebacker. We still need the linebacker. We don't have one yet. And they're coming off the board. I know some people wanted Patrick Queen. I was one of those people. I really wanted Patrick Queen. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. My understanding is the Eagles did look into him, but they didn't want to pay him that much money. And I don't think it had anything to do with what they're paying Saquon Barkley. I know some people, they should have signed Queen instead of Barkley. I don't think that had anything to do with it. They still have a ton of cap space. But who would they go get? I still would like to see them go younger in free agency at linebacker too, but players are coming off the board now. So I don't know if you're going to see a move. I talked to you before. Howie Roseman doesn't necessarily make all of his moves right away. Sometimes he waits a little bit. So when we look at linebacker, who's still available? I'm looking at some of my list of people I want. We know Frankie Laveau signed already. Patrick Queen signed already. Is Jordan Brooks still available, or did Jordan Brooks sign somewhere? Because he's young. Seattle got rid of him. Did Jordan Brooks sign anywhere? Because he was a name I was looking at. There's just been so much news I can't keep up, man. Yeah, he signed with the Dolphins. So he's off the board as well. Devin White's a young linebacker who's still available, but he had a real down year last year. So we'll see what they do. But my understanding is Josh Sweat is gone. People I've spoken to have said Josh Sweat will definitely be traded. Haason Reddick, though, potentially could be back. Haason Reddick's going and testing the market because he wants to be paid a ton of money, as we know. So, and I got people on Twitter saying, get with the times. Dude, with all the freaking news that's coming out of here. So I didn't know one player had signed. There's been news all day, and I was on the radio all day yesterday. So just relax, brother. Relax. But when we get back, we're going to be joined by the one and only Kayla Santiago. Want to talk to her. A lot of Eagles today because I know everybody's over the Sixers. And Tobias Harris had a great night last night. In 26 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Tobias. Anyway, when we get back, we'll do some more Eagles talk with the one and only Kayla Santiago. This is the Philly Sports Power Hour. I'm Bill Colarulo. Hit that like button, hit that share button. We'll be right back.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Philly Sports Power Hour. It's an exciting time of year. And I'll tell you what, before we bring Kayla on, the craziest thing is Howie Roseman and the Eagles know exactly what to do. A lot of people were over the top negative with this team. You know, I wasn't one of them. I get called Bill Spadaro because I saw all the cap space they had and why I was excited for free agency. But all that negativity, in less than 48 hours of legal tampering, the entire city has shifted. I can't walk anywhere without seeing Eagle shirts all day to this morning when I was walking around. Yesterday, everybody's rocking their Eagle shirt. This is why they stay number one in the city. Anyway, now I want to bring on the one and only Kayla Santiago. And is that an Eagle shirt you're rocking too?
It is. Listen, I have to because Howie Roseman deserves a standing ovation after what he did. We all know that he can do things like this, but I think a lot of people were kind of doubting it, saying, okay, well, he got an offensive player, and he got the guy that I wanted on the defensive side of the ball, so I am super excited. Listen, the Sixers have broken my heart enough. It was time for the Eagles to kind of pick up the pieces off the floor. I'm as happy as can be right now. Clearly on paper, it looks good. We have to wait till this season, but big moves being made, and it's exciting for the Eagles.
Absolutely. And this is Kayla Santiago. Does a great job covering the Sixers, the Eagles, does some play-by-play for the Delaware Bluecoats at times. So I always tell you, make sure you're following Kayla because she is going places. So Kayla's been calling for the Chauncey Gardner Johnson signing for a while. Why are you so excited that he's back?
Listen, I understand the injuries, and I don't care about what he said bad about the Eagles last year. I'm just glad that he's back in Philadelphia. You know, we talked about this a little bit last week. The youth in that position right now is so much. And you're looking at guys that need another veteran back there. Darius Slay, a lot of people looked at him last year and said, well, he's not playing well. He wasn't playing well because he was probably asked to do a bunch of different things and different defensive coordinators. He's probably all over the place. Now you have another guy in CJ Gardner Johnson back there with you. Maybe that helps out, elevate Darius Slay's game just a little bit. I mean, I absolutely love the signing. You look at it and you say, okay, he was a huge piece for the Eagles when he was on this team. I was upset when they let him go. Listen, I was happy they re-signed Darius Slay. I wasn't super happy about James Bradbury. And I looked at it and I said, okay, you're going to regret losing CJ. He's a veteran back there. I get, once again, the injuries might be a factor on why people don't want him. But he's a guy that you need back there. And if he can stay healthy, he's really going to help this team. I wanted it. I'm so happy that maybe Howie listened. I don't know. Maybe he was tuning in last week. I'm sure he had it on his board. But in Howie we trust, because I think that signing was huge, maybe even bigger than the Saquon Barkley signing, because I kind of figured once they let go DeAndre Swift and let him walk that there was going to be a big running back coming into Philadelphia. So I'm glad that they also prioritized part of the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, and I like the swagger Chauncey Gardner Johnson will bring. But what do you think now? Do you think they're finished at the safety position? We'll talk more about the other positions on defense, but do you think they bring in anybody else at safety, or do you feel okay with Reed Blankenship, Chauncey Gardner Johnson, and then Sidney Brown when he comes back from injury?
You know, so it's interesting. I want to say maybe they're done with the safety position. I don't think they're done with the secondary as a whole. We saw yesterday reports of McKinney possibly coming over. You know, you look at that and you say, okay, maybe Howie really isn't done. I understand that, you know, he can go to the draft and there's some talent there, but it's going to be the same thing that we saw last year. You don't want a ton of young guys back there, especially if for some reason Slay or CJ go down. So I look at other corners. I also look at the safety position. I don't think that he's done yet, But I do think that he might prioritize other things because I think he may go to the draft now for the secondary and maybe try to get a linebacker. I was just tuning in, listening, and you said you don't really know right now who the Eagles could even go after because there's not a lot of guys after that possibly pop out to you at this moment, which I do believe is true. But I think that you need to prioritize that position because you can't get a young linebacker out of the draft. Not everybody's going to be a Micah Parsons. So when you look at it, you have to say, okay, I think that's where Howie's move maybe goes next. And then if there's a deal out there, maybe he brings in a safety, but I wouldn't prioritize bringing in somebody else right this second. I do think, as much as I don't like to say, you can go to the draft for that.
Yeah, I have some concerns with the linebacker position still. I feel good. I'm not getting too carried away. It's only been 48 hours since the legal tampering period. None of these deals are even official yet, which is crazy. We're all losing our minds. We got to get to 4:00 today for it to be official. But I just look at that defense, and the linebacker position is still a glaring hole. Right now, the only linebackers you have under contract are Nakobe Dean, who we still haven't seen enough of. He played 34 snaps as a rookie, was on the IR twice last year in his second season. And then you have Ben Van Sumeren, who was playing fullback a couple years ago in college. So I think they need to do something. And as much as I'd love to see them draft a linebacker, that would also be a question mark. So you agree with me, they've got to do something before the season starts in free agency where they bring in a player at linebacker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not against drafting a linebacker either. I do think it's important that they're able to grow young talent, but I just think how this team is constructed. We saw it last year. You look at a guy like Sidney Brown, and I give credit to Sidney Brown. You could see every single game like he was getting better, like he was learning, like he was putting it all out there, like he was the only one tackling at times. But he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He has so much to learn in a position that didn't really have a lot of veteran leadership as well. So if you're going to bring in a linebacker from the draft and you say, well, Nakobe Dean is your leader and your veteran, you got to listen to him, he's going to give you the advice, then the Eagles are definitely in trouble. You need to bring in somebody else. I wouldn't be sad if they got somebody from free agency and then also drafted a linebacker just to kind of grow that position a little bit more. Now, I doubt they do that because we both know they have overlooked that position for such a long time. But if they do, I wouldn't be sad about that either. So you look at it, and I agree with you. I don't think there's anybody glaring right now out there. I was actually looking at some articles, yesterday about it because I'm saying, okay, when are they going to make that move? Jordan Hicks is a name people are throwing around as well, a reunion with Philadelphia. I think his asking price might be a little bit too high. Right, yeah, he did. So
yeah, he signed
I think
already.
So that was an article that came out before he did all that. But,
he reunited with I'm drawing a blank now on our Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz. He reunited with our defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who he was here with in Cleveland.
So I would have loved that pickup, just like I would have loved CJ to come back. But you look at guys kind of like that might not be as high of an asking price. They're not necessarily at the top. They're
she froze on us. She froze on us. We'll see if we can get her back. All right. We'll see if we get Kayla back. I think she's back already. There she is.
Okay. Sorry about that. There is some construction outside our complex right now. So
no worries.
But yeah, I think you look at a guy like that when you look at free agency. That was a signing that I would have loved the Eagles to get. But once again, I just think his asking price was a little bit too high. Clearly he's happy he got paid wherever he's at. So you look at it and you say, all right, well, maybe a guy like that could come into Philadelphia and make a difference.
So I want to talk about the offense in a second, but let's stay with the defense because from what I'm hearing, Josh Sweat will be traded, that is almost a guarantee. How do you feel going into this season if Josh Sweat gets traded now that they got Bryce Huff? And then kind of the second part of that question is, do you think if they trade Sweat, they absolutely have to keep Haason Reddick?
That's tough. I was talking to a lot of people that I know that cover the Jets, and they look at it and they say, Bryce Huff, we're lucky to get Bryce Huff. He's a really dominant player. He has so much upside in him as well, even more that I don't think a lot of people saw because he was on the New York Jets. So I think that he's going to be a really good piece that a lot of people don't expect him to play very well. I think that you need to keep Haason if you get rid of Josh Sweat. And I get that Josh Sweat isn't the best player of all time, but he did all the little things for the Eagles that you're really going to miss. I mean, that defensive line and that outskirts of the defensive line now on the edge too, they're going to be a little bit younger. Yes, you bring BG back, and I get Fletcher Cox is in a different position, but you're looking at that rotation right now and you're saying, okay, there's a lot of young guys that are going to be there. And I like the addition of Bryce Huff, but I absolutely think if you get rid of Josh Sweat, you got to figure out a way to keep Haason Reddick. Now, does that help you out getting other pieces on your team? Not really, because he's going to be asking for a lot of money, but you look at it and you say, okay, I think he's worth the asking price. I think last year he didn't play as well because of that injury to his hand, to his thumb. So I think you look at it and you say, okay, he's a piece that could play really, really well for this team, and I would like to keep him if they could.
Yeah, and I think knowing what we know about Howie and how good he structures cap hits and everything, extending Reddick would actually save them money this year because his cap number is $22 million for 2024. If they're able to enter into a 2 or 3 year extension, even though they would be paying him more money, I think they could probably cut that cap in half for this season, kick the can down the road when we know the cap's going to go up even more over the next 2 years. So it could help them. But yeah, that's what I would like to see. My problem with Josh Sweat, Kayla, and I gave this stat yesterday on the show. You look at his last 4 seasons, he goes way too many games without contributing at all. And you look at even last year, he went 8 straight games to finish the regular season without a sack. He hit an absolute wall. I know he played a career high in snaps, but you can't have that. He did the same thing in 2022, went 5 games in a row. 2021, 4 games in a row. 2020, 5 games in a row. There's always these long stretches for Josh Sweat. So, but I agree with you. I think if you do trade Sweat, you have to keep Haason Reddick, because now what would be the plan? Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff. Who else do you really have? You know, Brandon Graham's not going to give you more than probably 20, 25% of the snaps.
Yeah, and I agree with that. As much as I love BG, I mean, he's gearing towards the end of his career at this point. So you look at it and you say, okay, I like Josh Sweat. I understand that he might not contribute as much as people want to, but I think he would be a good piece if you had to have an example of Haason Reddick leaving, keeping Sweat, and having those other pieces. I do like that, but clearly it doesn't seem like they want to keep him. They want to part ways. So I agree. I think you have to keep Haason Reddick, because otherwise you're looking at your defense and there's just so many holes that they're all not going to get fixed in free agency, and they're all not going to get fixed in the draft. So then you kind of dig yourself a hole a little bit there, unless you're going to the free agency market. But then what? You need a linebacker still, you need an edge rusher still, you need pieces to your secondary still. So yeah, once again, you come into a season with an offense that looks chipper as ever and a defense that has a lot of holes. They did that last year. It clearly didn't work. So you want to go into this season and say, okay, you need to make sure that, for one, you're paying guys, keeping some, getting rid of the ones that you don't think are going to contribute, and being able to bring in other pieces along with that. So, you know, we're not Howie Roseman. You know, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes and what he has up his sleeve, but I do know that they can't go into this season with holes on the defensive side like they did last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. But let's talk about that offense, because it does look unstoppable. Saquon Barkley, we heard rumors that they were interested. A lot of people didn't want to believe it, but he will be a Philadelphia Eagles next year. What do you think he brings to that offense?
So much. And, you know, I saw this today on the New Heights podcast with Jason Kelce saying that, dang, Saquon Barkley decides to come to Philadelphia after he leaves. I would have loved to see Jason Kelce blocking the heck out of defensive lineman for Saquon Barkley. But besides that, he's just so electric. He's going to be so fun to watch on this team. And I think it's really something that they need. And I'm glad, as much as, you know, we don't want to put the blame all on Brian Johnson, if it was the reason they didn't run the ball at all, I'm glad that he's gone, because this is a running back you get to run the ball. And it takes a lot more pressure, I think, off of Jalen Hurts. You looked at Jalen last year, he was forced to throw a lot. And I don't really necessarily think this was going to force him to throw. I think some people might say, okay, well, what's Jalen going to do now? You have a power running back. Yeah, you do. But Saquon Barkley is going to need a sip of water or some rest at some point, so Jalen Hurts can still get out and run for the first down if he needs to. But I think this keeps Jalen even more healthy. You look at it and you're not seeing him forcing him run the ball when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley. Of course, it's the game of football. Injuries scare me a little bit with Saquon, but they scare you with everybody. Everybody said about DeAndre Swift coming in that he's injury prone. Well, he was fine last year, and he played very well for the Eagles. He didn't get as many touches as he deserved, but he did play well. So you look at Saquon. I'm excited. I'm excited that the Giants are frustrated about it. You see all this stuff on Twitter and everything like that. His teammates going at him. Listen, it's rivalry time, I guess, with New York and Philly. So I'm looking forward to that game as well. And I think it's an awesome pickup for Philadelphia.
Yeah, one of the people who was a little upset about the signing was Tiki Barber. And I actually texted with Tiki yesterday, and he said 17 years retired, and I'm still in all your heads. So Tiki,
yeah, he tried. He wrote it to social. He did everything. But listen, I think for once, Eagles fans can be on the opposite side of it and say, wow, we actually got a really good piece that hurt us on the opposing side for so many years.
Yeah, and you look at Saquon Barkley, and I know people are worried about his injury history, but you look at the last 3 seasons, he's played 45 games. You look at DeAndre Swift over the last 3 seasons, he's played 44 games. So, we can't just assume that Barkley's going to get hurt, and we've never seen him play with these type of weapons. In fact, I went and looked. Let me see if I could find those numbers. I went and looked at who he's played with in his career. Let's see, where did I put those numbers? I don't know if I have them in front of me, but last year, here we go. Last year, in addition to having bad quarterback play, Saquon had Daniel Jones, Tommy Cutlets, Tyrod Taylor. Their leading wide receiver was Darius Slayton with 770 yards. 2022, leading wide receiver, Darius Slayton, 724 yards. 2021, leading wide receiver, Kenny Golladay, 520 yards.
Kenny Golladay, yeah.
2020, Darius Slayton, 751. 2019, Darius Slayton, 740. The only time in Saquon Barkley's career that he had a 1,000-yard wide receiver was his rookie season with Odell Beckham Jr., and in 16 games, Saquon Barkley put up over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. So you're going to add this guy to an offense that already has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I mentioned that, you look at it and you say, okay, it brings the pressure off Jalen Hurts. It also brings the pressure off Saquon Barkley, too, because, I was talking to a lot of people also on the Giants side. They said not the only good thing about Saquon, of course, he can run the ball so well, but he can also kind of get out and catch the ball in those quick slants and give you some extra yardage. So that's also a plus when you look at it, because last year they definitely brought Kenny Gainwell in for those situations. And now you have a guy that can really do both as running back number 1. And now you look at it and you say, okay, well, not only the receivers, the tight end and Dallas Goedert as well. You look at that and you say, okay, that's my guy that's going to block for me, that can also catch the ball. That's also a very, very good player and can do everything that's needed in that core. So I think it also brings the pressure off Saquon Barkley. And I think that's absolutely huge, because I know that injuries are a part of the game and freak injuries happen, but at the same time, if Saquon doesn't have that much pressure on him, maybe it keeps him healthy. Oh, by the way, he's not playing at MetLife for every single home game on that horrific field. So maybe it's the curse of MetLife is the reason why he was getting injured so much, because now he's going to be playing at the Link. So I look at that and I say, okay, I know it sounds crazy, but what happens every single time players go to MetLife? It happened with the 49ers and it happened with the Eagles this past season. You look at it and you say, okay, that field is really messed up. Let's see how Saquon does at the Link. He's still going to have to see the Giants at least once next season. At the same time, though, I'm looking forward to this. Saquon Barkley is a terrific signing to me, and I'm really excited. Honestly, the running back I think I've been most excited for since LaShawn McCoy. And that sounds absolutely crazy, but I absolutely love Shady, and I think Saquon Barkley can kind of bring you that exact same power and that exact same drive that we haven't had in a really long time.
It's a great analogy when you talk about LaShawn McCoy, because that was also the last time Howie Roseman paid a running back big money, because they viewed LaShawn McCoy as a 3-down back. They didn't view Miles Sanders as a 3-down back. As good as he was running the football, he wasn't a great receiver out of the backfield.
Right.
And DeAndre Swift, as good as he was at times, one of the areas he struggled was in pass blocking. So they didn't see him really as a 3-down back. Now you have it, and you have a guy like Saquon Barkley. And I was listening to Adam Schefter this morning, and he compared Saquon Barkley to what Christian McCaffrey has done for the 49ers offense. He said, if Barkley can stay healthy, I expect him to do the same thing to the Eagles offense. It just takes him to an entirely different level because of how versatile Saquon Barkley can be, like you mentioned, in the passing game.
Yeah, let's hope that that's exactly what it is. I see people in the chat saying DeMarco Murray. If that happens, I think I'll just cry myself to sleep every night, because I went out, I was so hyped. I got a jersey and everything when we took him from the Cowboys, and then I was like, well, this guy does absolutely nothing. I don't think that's the case, though. I think Saquon he's ready to play. And Bill, as you mentioned before, he's playing with a lot of talent on his side. And if I was Saquon, I would be thrilled to play with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. I'd be thrilled to be next to a guy who really wants it, who's, been to the Super Bowl, who was just a few ticks away from beating Patrick Mahomes. This team on the offensive side of the ball has it. They have a new offensive coordinator, which is huge. I mean, I'm thrilled. I hate to get overexcited because this is always what happens, but you look at this team, how it's constructed, it's so much better than a season ago, and I'm just excited to see what they can do. Of course, fingers crossed he stays healthy, but it's the game of football. I think you're always worried about injuries.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what makes this sport so difficult. It's why their careers are so short, is because of injuries. But a good start, and we can get excited. This is the time of year to get excited because you look around the NFC, and one of our biggest competition, especially in the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia Eagles have added Bryce Huff, Saquon Barkley, Zach Bond, Matt Hennessy, Devontae Parker, Chauncey Gardner Johnson. They extend Landon Dickerson. They extend their punter, and they extend their long snapper. Well, the only thing the Dallas Cowboys have done is extend their long snapper. That's the only move they have made so far this offseason. And Dak Prescott's brother, Tad, didn't know he had a brother named Tad, but Tad Prescott tweeted out yesterday, if we didn't know it already, the Philadelphia Eagles have the best front office in the NFL. Hashtag, how about them Cowboys? That's coming from
crazy.
Dak's brother.
That's crazy. If I was Dak, I'd be like, you cannot tweet that. These fans are going to go absolutely nuts. But I mean, they're not wrong. You look at the woes of Howie Roseman in the draft, and I think that he's been able to really upkeep that as of late, especially from the past 2 years. You look at Jalen Carter, you look at Jordan Davis, you look at Devontae Smith as well. So I think Howie Roseman right now, he knows what he's doing. And, last year we said, oh, well, the Eagles' woes are coming from the top up. And maybe they were, but they clearly are fixing their mistakes. They clearly believe in Nick Sirianni, that he's going to be the guy, at least for this year, and they brought him help. I think that's what he needs, and that's what he's got. And I absolutely was losing my mind. I was excited about Saquon, but you know how hype I was over CJ getting him back. When that happened, when I got the Bleacher Report notification on my phone, I was going nuts. I was so excited to report on it at work, too. I mean, it was just awesome to be able to have that reunion. And sometimes there's players that Howie will bring back, and I'm saying, okay, why are you bringing him back? This is just because you want to give them a little bit of love for the Super Bowl, and that Super Bowl win in 2017. CJ, he's not that. He deserves to be back. He deserves to be in this position, and he's really going to help them out on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, what do you think this does, all this firepower now on the offensive side of the ball? What do you think that does for Jalen Hurts? Because I know a lot of people are saying this will help Jalen, but do you think it puts more pressure on him to have to deliver? Because really now, no excuses. Experienced offensive coordinator, really good weapons. What do you think the pressure's like on Jalen Hurts going into 2024?
I think there's a lot of pressure, but I think there was pressure before you got Saquon Barkley, and I say that because of how they ended last year. I think, if you look at it right now and you say, okay, well, there's no pressure on Jalen, you're absolutely crazy because last year they played horribly, and not all the blame was on him, but definitely some of it was. And I think in his mind, he kind of already knew that I had to perform next year no matter what, because this year was such a collapse for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that pressure was already there. So I think from that standpoint, you already have that. I think bringing in Saquon, maybe he can actually take a deep breath saying, yeah, I need to perform, but I already knew that. Now I have an extra piece that's going to help me be able to do that. A new offensive coordinator that's going to be able to help me grow, help me get better, really apply to his strength versus just kind of having an empty backfield, putting him in the pocket to throw, because that's not who he is. Yes, he can do that, but he can do so many more things. It's asking Lamar Jackson to say, hey, only pass the ball. You're absolutely crazy. They tried to do that in the AFC Championship, and they missed out on so many different things because you look at it and you say, okay, yeah, I get the narrative that people want Lamar to throw the ball. At the same time, he's so powerful as a runner, and that's what makes him such a good quarterback. He can do so many different things. So when you bring in a guy that's going to allow Jalen to do the exact same thing, I think that he's excited. I think the pressure was already there from the end of last year. So I don't think there's any added pressure. I almost think it's a relief to have a guy that can come in and kind of help you live up to those expectations that you had when you lost that playoff game last year.
And the Eagles make a lot of moves. I mentioned the Dallas Cowboys didn't make any moves, but another NFC contender that I think is the team to watch for the Eagles this year. I'm not as worried about the 49ers. I think they're going to experience that Super Bowl hangover. But the team I'm worried about is the Green Bay Packers, and they make some really good moves to start free agency. They outbid the Philadelphia Eagles for safety Xavier McKinney on the defensive side of the ball, and they also bring in Josh Jacobs at running back. They release Aaron Jones, who went to Minnesota. You worried about the Packers at all this year?
I mean, I definitely am. I loved how they played last year. I love how they gave the 49ers a run for their money in the playoffs. And I think that team is well constructed. They clearly understand that Jordan Love is the guy that they want to bank on right now, at least the guy for the short term. And I think that you see that because they're bringing in other pieces that are going to help him a little bit as a team, as a whole. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, this is really awesome. But one of the things, I think the Eagles just have that experience. I think the Eagles have the experience of playing deep in the playoffs. You've already seen guys like Jalen Hurts be there. He knows what it feels like. So from my standpoint, as long as anybody can stay healthy, I look at the Eagles at this point right now. We haven't touched the draft yet. You know, teams are still making moves, but at this point right now, I would take the Eagles as the top team in the NFC, just have her constructed on paper. They still have moves to be made. And, you know, it's Eagles as 1A and Packers as 1B. I just think the Birds, they have that experience. They have a coach that has been there. They have a coach that, you know, after the downfall last year, they're going to have no hangover. They're going to be like, okay, we need to really show this city what we can do. Otherwise, there's going to be conversations of their job going out the door. So, to me, you look at that and you say, okay, the Packers, I think, still need to experience a little bit more. The Eagles have had it, and they know they need to get back there because, once again, jobs are going to be on the line if they have an instrumental collapse like they did a season ago.
And we can't ignore, I see people checking in on TikTok, we can't ignore the 49ers. You can't ignore the Lions. But, yeah, I think the NFC right now, to me, it's 5 teams. It's the Niners, the Lions, the Packers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. Even though the Cowboys haven't improved their team, they still had a decent team last season. But you know, I just worry about the 49ers having that Super Bowl hangover. They had to cut Eric Armstead, who I know was hurt at times this year. They fired their defensive coordinator. They named a guy who's never been a DC before. We've seen this movie before as Eagles fans, going to a Super Bowl, losing, and then hiring a defensive coordinator without really any experience doesn't always work out. So that's why I think the 49ers have a tough road ahead. But before I let you run, I don't really want to do it, but you usually come on to talk 76ers, so we'll talk very quickly about the 76ers. What the hell's going on, Kayla? What a horrible performance last night.
You know what's crazy? I was watching the Knicks and the Sixers game a few nights ago with that low score not breaking 80 points. And I said, okay, this reminds me of the Sixers when I was 12 years old, when you would get Big Macs, free Big Macs from McDonald's when they would score 100 points because it was so rare that they ever did it in that stage of the NBA. This stage of the NBA, to me, it's all about offense. It's all about shooting. It's all about scoring. The fact that you have performances like that, yes, they won a few nights ago, but they still didn't wow anybody with scoring, 79 points? You look at it last night, you look at Tobias Harris. I mean, clearly this shows that Joel Embiid is the most valuable player to this team because they can't play without him. And it's crazy how one player can make such a drastic change. But you look at Tobias Harris, and I genuinely wonder if everything's okay with the guy because you look at it and you say, okay, he's having a collapse as a player right now. I mean, you have an opportunity to take over. You and Tyrese Maxey are the guys they're looking at. And yes, I love Buddy Hield, but he just came to the organization. You've been there. You know what it's like. It's your time to step up. And Tobias has been doing everything but that. It's absolutely crazy to see this downfall that they're on. And once again, we talked about it. Now I'm seeing reports that people are crazy to think that he'll be back at the end of March and Joel Embiid. You look at it and you say, are the Sixers really going to drop into that play-in tournament? Because that's the last thing that you want the Joel Embiid to come into that, have one game, if you're the 7 or 8 seed, have 2 games to have a chance to get into the playoffs. Are you absolutely kidding me? It is awful what they're doing right now. It is hard to watch. It's not watch basketball. I'd much rather watch a 10-win Sixers team right now than this team currently. At least they had some heart. At least TJ McConnell was going out there and balling out for the Sixers. Because you look at it now and you say, okay, this team should not be this bad. I understand Joel Embiid is the best player on your team, but where's everybody else? Why do they only want to play when Joel plays? Tobias Harris, he needs to step up. I don't think it's going to be done. I'm worried about this team. And for me, if they get into playoff contention or even worse, why rush Joel Embiid back? I mean, this might just be a wipe of the season, which is really, really sad considering the hype it had around it coming into this year and making that Buddy Hield move.
I know. It's so frustrating. And we've talked about this before on the show. You look at the 76ers, and we've had 1, NBA championship appearance in our lifetime. I know you're younger than me, but even for me, I was born 83. I think they went to the NBA. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, in 85.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only seen them even play for the NBA championship once in 40 damn years. And this is supposed to be like a historic franchise in the NBA. The 76ers, it's where Wilt Chamberlain and Dr. J and Allen Iverson played. It's getting frustrating. And it's like the same story every year. And I remember having you on earlier, a couple of months ago, and we were saying, hey, are they sucking us back in? Or are we believing in this team? And we were starting to believe. And then Embiid goes down, and now all this. I mean, I don't know how much more patience the Sixers want us to have. We went through the damn process, and now the process is looking like an epic failure. So I don't have much patience left for this team.
Yeah, it's been really tough, and I've really never seen the Sixers play in an NBA championship because I wasn't even one yet when AI brought them in 2001 because I'm a 2000s baby, late 2000s baby.
So young, Kayla.
Yeah, I really need this team to give me some hope because imagine year after year being like, okay, the last time I was excited about this team besides Joel Embiid era was when they had Andre Iguodala when he was able to hit the free throw in 2012 against the Bulls, and only because Derrick Rose went down, that's how they advanced, right? That's been the most fun I've had as a Sixers fan. Embiid era has been fun, but it's been disappointing due to them being second-round exits. So, listen, I think that you look at it right now, I don't want to say this season is a wash, but unless they start playing better basketball, which it doesn't seem like it anytime soon, it's going to be really, really tough because why are you going to rush Joel Embiid back if you're fighting for a 7 and 8 seed and you might just get knocked out in the first round by the 1 seed when Joel's not, fully up to speed, fully conditioned, things like that. So I don't want to say it's a wash, but right now it's not looking good. And guys need to step up because Tobias Harris, people say he doesn't deserve a max contract. He definitely doesn't deserve a max contract when he has an opportunity to play, to be the guy, to be the scorer. And he's averaging absolutely nothing and some crumble cookies on the side. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous right now for Tobias Harris. So it's frustrating. I'm glad that the Eagles can help us out and bring some positivity into our lives because every time I watch the Sixers on TV, I have this false hope that they'll play well, and they just never do.
Well, Kayla, I appreciate you as always, and I tell you every single time, if you're following along on the show, make sure you're following Kayla Santiago. She does a great job with the Sixers, the Eagles, the Delaware Bluecoats, just does awesome stuff. Joins us every Wednesday. Kayla, I appreciate you. Hopefully I'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll have more word from the Eagles. I'm excited to see what they keep on doing. It's been fun to watch, Howie Roseman kind of cook every other GM in the league right now. So looking forward to it.
I agree. All right, Kayla, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, have a good one.
The one and only Kayla Santiago joining the show. She does a great job, absolute great job covering Sixers and Eagles. And you got to listen if you haven't heard her do play-by-play. Every once in a while, she's on the Bluecoats play-by-play. Does an awesome job as a play-by-play announcer as well, which is not easy. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to do that. Play-by-play is not an easy thing to do, and Kayla is very good at it. So she's certainly going places. But we're almost done the hour, and I see people in the chat saying, hey, extend the show. But I do appreciate all of you being here for the hour every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., the Power Hour, Philly Sports Power Hour. Tomorrow, probably Farzy going to join the show. I'll keep you updated on that. But make sure you're following me. I tell you that every day, especially here on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Make sure you're following along everywhere. We're posting daily content every single day about all Philly sports. Heavy lean on our Philadelphia Eagles, but all Philly sports. And I don't understand. I still see some negativity in the chat. I still see some negativity. But how could you be negative right now? How could you be negative right now looking at the direction of this Philadelphia Eagles team? We are less than 48 hours into legal tampering. It kicked off Monday at 12 o'clock. And you sit here now, and we are a better team. The Philadelphia Eagles are a better team right now than they were 48 hours ago. They can't be finished. I'm not satisfied. I still need linebackers. I'd like another safety. But how could you be negative as we head into now the 2024 offseason? As you look at, they still have a ton of cap space. You know that I'm usually positive about the direction of this team because I saw what was happening. People were saying I was Bill Spadaro because I looked at the future and I said, I'm ready to close the book on what happened in 2023. Because if you look toward the future and you saw all the cap space they had, and you saw that they brought in Kellen Moore, an offensive coordinator who's called plays for 5 seasons in this league and did it with the number 1 offense 2 years ago. You brought in Vic Fangio, who's been a defensive coordinator for 20 damn years in this league. How could you not feel better today about the direction of this Eagles team? And I still, look, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. You know I'm still a fan of both. But this is a prove-it year for both of those guys. You've given Sirianni a good offensive coordinator. You've given him a good defensive coordinator. You've given Jalen Hurts more weapons than I've ever seen in my life. He basically has 2 number 1 wide receivers. He's got Dallas Goedert. Now you add Saquon Barkley. He still has a pretty good offensive line, even with Cam Jurgens taking over at center. So this is a prove-it year for them. Now, I firmly believe that they are going to prove it because I am a big fan of Jalen Hurts. I do think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. And I think Nick Sirianni, 2 out of 3 seasons, was pretty damn good. His first season, nobody expected them to do what they did, making the playoffs. 2022, nobody expected them to be as dominant as they were, going all the way to the Super Bowl. And you've heard me say this before, what we were asking them to do last year, no coach had ever done. No coach in NFL history went to a Super Bowl, lost both coordinators, and were able to get back the next season. So let's see what happens in year 4. Let's see what happens with 2 competent coordinators and a bunch of weapons and a bunch of personnel. They're not done. They're not finished. They better not be. They still need pieces on that defense, but this is a pretty damn good start. I'm feeling pretty good. I think a majority of the city is feeling pretty damn good. But let's take a look like we do every Philly Sports Power Hour with a little Today in Sports History. March 13th, 2022. We're only going 2 years back. Tom Brady, after being retired for 40 days, announced he was coming back for one more season. March 13th, 2022. He probably should have stayed retired. It wasn't a great season, although they did win the NFC South. They finished with an 8-9 record. That's how bad the NFC South was that year. They went to the wild card. They lost to the Dallas Cowboys. And then February 1st, he announced he was retired for good. Maybe Jason Kelce gives us a 40-day, I'm coming back. I doubt it. But everybody, I appreciate you. This was the Philly Sports Power Hour. Like I said, if you want to catch me tonight, 6 to 10, I'll be on 97.5 The Fanatic doing a Birds special. I'll be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock for the Philly Sports Power Hour. And as always, go Birds.
Thank you.